you've made it pretty clear in comments to us that you have no desire to undertake a full rebuild, even though you would have support from ownership if you chose that path. But you've also said to us in the past you won't settle for mediocrity. So what is the strategy to kind of pull yourself out of the mediocrity you're currently stuck in, given that you will not undertake a full rebuild?
Well, the analysis will start right now. And going into free agency, I think we're going to be pretty aggressive the way we showed before, going into, draft and free agency. And, we obviously cannot roll the same team again and expect different results. So we definitely understand that, even with some of the positivity with, the clutch wins and, overtime wins, we're still at 39 and we're playing, and we have to somehow generate additional 10 wins. And even with injuries that we suffered this year, I think we need to change things.
Artūras, Joe Colley, Sun-Times. With locally and nationally, the perception the last couple of years is pretty fair to say is you guys, the thought is, are more about the business of basketball instead of being serious about winning basketball. Whether that's true or not true, the moves you guys have made or lack thereof doesn't do much to argue that point. How do you change that perception, and how do you defend yourself right now against that perception that it's business first and winning is an afterthought?
I mean, I always think about basketball. I'm thinking about winning, and that's why I'm here. I'm not here to stay in the middle. But I think the formula that we came up 3 years ago, I thought it was working until a couple injuries, and we're going to have to find these answers in this offseason. Obviously, the results are not what we wanted, and I totally get it. And it's on me to figure it out.
Artūras, you said there yourself that you don't feel like you can roll with the same group and find success. So kind of the two big questions going into this offseason, do you feel like DeMar and do you feel like Zach both have a place and a path forward here? And how do you approach the offseason, if so?
The way I approach, I'm going to look at a totality in this group. This group hasn't worked, so we're gonna, there's a lot of great things in certain individual players, and a lot of young guys that took a step forward, and it's positive. But in totality, as a group, it didn't work. So I'm gonna have to find these answers in off season.
But nothing on either of those. You just don't.
Well,
yet, or
the both sides, in terms of DeMar, has been great for us for 3 years. He's been invested in, the city of Chicago, and it's been really great to our young guys, so both sides are interested in, continuing. So we'll see what happens in free agency.
Obviously I'm not a capologist by any means, but at the same time, it just looks, the way it looks is you're kind of painted in the corner with some of these contracts, and moving them will be tricky, especially if you think you're going to get back, dime for a dime. Is there a chance that, yes, I mean, you don't want to blow this up, you don't want to have a full rebuild, but there's going to have to be some painful years because of the contracts you're currently kind of handcuffed with right now?
I think we can be creative. We've been creative in the past, and, going into this off season, we're going to, basically everything is on the table. So we're going to look at everything. That would be my answer.
Casey.
Artūras, how will you approach the Lonzo Ball situation? Because obviously there's a human element to it, but there's also a business element to it in terms of applying for career-ending injury provision if you need to take that route.
Well, he's improving, and we'll see where he's at the next couple of months. There's no setbacks, so we'll see where he's at in terms of on-court and basketball side. So we'll figure it out.
As you mentioned your confidence in Billy as head coach, just, the record over the last few years has obviously maybe not reflected what maybe you guys are seeing from him as a coach. What gives you that confidence that he is that long-term solution for that position, and just kind of what have you seen from him that's given you that?
I mean, you spent, 3 times a day with Billy. I mean, he's obviously a great leader, great coach, and I got to do a better job to help him, to find a group. We put emphasis on cohesion this year, and I think this group kind of bonded. Again, in totality, it didn't work, and I have to find these answers.
Artūras, back at the trading deadline, when you were talking about the strategy, you mentioned competitiveness. You wanted to stay where you were based on the competitiveness of the team. What have you seen regarding that? Not just toward last night's game, which wasn't that competitive particularly, but is that something that also needs to be addressed, competitiveness, or are you satisfied with what you've seen?
Well, yesterday, the guys tried, right? But we faced probably one of the worst offensive outcomes of the season. And what we saw on Wednesday and what we saw on Friday, 2 different things. We knew that the game yesterday is going to be a grind. It's going to be totally different. They're going to be physical, and they're going to, it's going to be challenging. But, we took a lot of threes. We didn't make a lot. So in terms of field goal percentage was, but that the guys competed and wanted to win, there's no question about it.
Cody Westerlund with The Score. Just when you look back on your tenure in Chicago so far, what are the mistakes you've made that you don't want to repeat, or what you want to learn from as you move forward and try to put the team in a better position?
I just realized that, it's a result-driven business, and I'll be evaluated based on results, and I expect that. I just have to do a better job putting the group together, and we all want to win, and that's what I'm here. That's what I'm going to try to do every year. And when we come up short, that's not the result that we want.
Artūras, with your conversations with, obviously Michael was at the game yesterday with the Reinsdorfs, have they expressed to you that, the job you're doing isn't satisfactory in their eyes? Has there been any discussion like that where you feel like, your job security is on the line and you've got to do something here quick or get off the pot?
No, I got to do my job better. It's my responsibility. This program is my responsibility. They've been, Jerry and Michael have been really supportive, and obviously their expectation is better results. That's why, diving into this off season, I put emphasis on turning this program around.
Will.
Just kind of with the way that the last season turned out, are you at all kind of surprised, or I guess how surprised are you that the result turned out the way that it did? Because obviously there was a lot of confidence going into the second half of the season with the way they were playing.
The ups and downs of the season were, you came in, again, taken from training camp, and then, starting at 5-14. That was a very bad start. And then the team is going over 500 the rest of the way. I think, that group, again, play much better in that segment. So, again, we sustained a lot of injuries. Actually, before the Atlanta game, I thought, if Io and Drum don't play, we had only 8 available bodies. So it's part of it. But again, as a group, we have to do better, and we have to find ways to be in the top 6.
And then just one more is, looking back at the way this season unfolded, obviously hindsight is 20/20, but do you have regrets about, not taking action at the trade deadline to try to give yourself a chance, or maybe start to go the other direction?
I mean, I'm always open to doing deals that are going to improve the team. And when we didn't see that there are deals available to improve the team and, to still compete for a playoff spot, I'm not going to do it. So I think going into this off season, I think we're going to be more aggressive to look for ways to improve this team.
Artūras, three-part question, your favorite kind. Would you prefer to handle DeMar's business before he hits unrestricted free agency, if possible, like you did with Vucevic last year?
We're going to take a look at everything, Casey.
How will you handle the Patrick Williams restricted free agency? Would you let the market set a price for him and then decide on matching, or would you be aggressive with the offer right out of the gate?
I mean, the disappointing thing is that, we lost Patrick for the season, and last 3 months, I wish we could have seen this team with Patrick on it. We lack, obviously, size without him. The both sides are mutually, they want him to be here, so we'll approach, free agency as always.
And last one, thankfully for you. You obviously give a strong endorsement for Billy Donovan, as you always have. Do you expect his staff to remain intact?
We'll sit down with Billy, and we'll sit down with staff and go from there. Like I said, we have to look at everything. We have to look at everything and come back next year in better shape.
We'll get a couple more. Cody?
I wanted to go back to Lonzo real quick. It would seem logical that you need to know his future by the draft, start of free agency in some ways to plan for whether he's there or not, other moves. But also his father indicated he probably won't return to full contact 5-on-5 until August, September maybe. Like, how do you make that decision at that moment? What factors are you weighing with his health as you decide his future with the organization?
Well, we're just going to wait and see his progression next couple of months. He's progressing well. Everything is looking with no setbacks, so we'll see where he's at in a couple of months.
Artūras, do you, your front office, whether it's Mark or whoever it is, do you feel pretty good about all the jobs they've done, or do you, when you talk about looking at everything, are you also looking at changing things in the front office?
No, I feel really good about front office, and actually, by me sitting here and saying that we need to make changes and improve, I think they're all gonna work extremely hard, and I have, total confidence in them, coming up and being creative. We've done that in the past, and looking forward to this free agency.
We'll take one more. Sam Smith, go ahead.
Notwithstanding Lonzo, who even though was a priority that summer, the framework has been Vucevic, Levine, and DeRozan, sort of the big three they were talking about all. Does that still work? Do you see that still working? Would you like to pursue that still working?
I've said numerous times today, I said this group there's something doesn't work. So I've got to find ways to to find a group that's gonna make improvements, because we've done that for a couple of years now. It hasn't worked. So everything is on the table, Sam.
Is that really it, or did you ask another one?
Would you like to ask one more?
I can always think of one more.
Oh, goodness.
All right, assuming you can't, there always has to be one question about the luxury tax. And I know your stance on it, I know ownership's stance on it, I know you say publicly, but if you do the math, if you're not able to trade Zach and you re-sign DeMar and Patrick, as you say you want to, you're in the tax. So how do you square bringing a tax team to ownership when you're a ninth place non-playoff team?
My approach looking at the luxury tax is like, if you can prove that your team is going to be in the top 4, you go in a luxury tax. And I think, it just makes no sense to, let's say, to be in a French and to be in play-in if you're going to be in the luxury tax. So as long as I can, put a team together that can be competing in top 4, that's when you're going to start looking at to go in East, I would say. That's when you start retaining guys and going in a luxury tax. I think that would be my approach.
Last one, Cody.
I did have one more, but you'll like this one. Just how do you view Coby White's trajectory moving forward with the team? Like, is he a piece? Is he a potential all-star in your mind? How are you kind of viewing him in how important he is to the organization moving forward?
Well, he's made huge strides. For me, he's most improved player this year. And obviously he's part of this group that, kept us in the playoff hunt. And how he's played this year, it's been unbelievable. So I think he's still away from being, far away from being a final product. So I think he's going to come back this offseason and he's going to improve other things. He knows exactly, he's 7th in the league in minutes played. I'm sure he didn't expect that this year, but he's going to approach his offseason and he's going to come back even better.
Thanks, Artūras.
Thank you.